There has been 230 days since the last college football game was played, and, well, we all know how that went. So this Saturday, we are finally back. Let's freaking go. And nothing brings college football fans back together quite like Week 0. And Week 0 has become a new tradition in the sport, one that brings you all sorts of games, whether it is a battle between two random Big Ten schools, MAC schools, Mountain West schools, Sun Belt schools. You always get a game with Hawaii. It does not matter. It's football, and we love these games. But when exactly did Week 0 start? Well, Week 0 has become a new tradition in the sport, and it is not something that we see in any other sport professionally or collegiately. College football by NCAA rule can start no earlier than Labor Day weekend. So the first college football Saturday is the Saturday before Labor Day. It has been like that since the beginning of college football. However, you can apply for a waiver, and that is kind of how the first Week 0 games began. Back in 1983, we saw the first ever Week 0 game in the Kickoff Classic, which featured number 1 Nebraska defeating number 4 Penn State 44-6 at the Giants Stadium in New Jersey. And after that, we would see some matchups, including an entire slate of games in 2002, and more games were played in 2003 and 2004. But it wasn't until 2016 that we saw another Week 0 game. Yes, they took a massive break. They stopped doing them. But in 2016, we saw a game between Hawaii and Cal, and in 2017, we saw 4 more games, and in 2018, we saw another 4. Now, while the Week 0 games were starting to come back, you may notice that Hawaii is featured in a lot of these games. Well, there was a rule created called the Hawaii Rule that grants teams that play a game in Hawaii an extra regular season home game to offset travel costs. That's a big reason why Hawaii participates every year in Week 0. It's not because they're the latest team to play their game. Now, Week 0 was starting to get way more traction, and in 2019, 150th anniversary season of college football being played, Florida and Miami, 2 Power 5 schools, played in Orlando in Week 0. And this got a lot of attention, made a lot of money, and you know what happens when you bring in money and you get a lot of attention. The networks realized how impactful it would be to at least have a game being played before the real season begins. Now, 2020, we did not see any games being played because obviously COVID happened, and in 2021, we saw 5 games return. We saw Illinois and Nebraska play, which was supposed to be in Ireland. They ended up playing that in Illinois. We all remember that game. And then last year, we saw 11 games being played, most notably Nebraska and Northwestern, a battle between 2 of the worst Power 5 teams, played in Ireland for some reason. And then this year's games, man, we've got some doozies. Notre Dame versus Navy in Ireland. Yes, which is actually a rematch from 2012 when they both played in Ireland. And no better team to play than Navy, who can just sail their way to Ireland. And then we have Vanderbilt hosting Hawaii. Hawaii is coming to the mainland, and they're also playing in Vanderbilt's torn up stadium, which you don't have grit if you don't play in that stadium. It does not matter. As long as there's a field, there should be a game. But Week 0 does not just feature non-conference games. We actually do have a few conference games between Jacksonville State and UTEP and Louisiana Tech and FIU. But the main event, New Mexico State hosting UMass on ESPN. Tell me how that makes sense. I cannot think of a more accurate representation of what Week 0 football is all about. And then we also have USC with Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams playing against San Jose State, a team that made a bowl game last year, and what is probably, you know, a normal matchup between a national title contender and a pretty decent team. But of course, this game is on the Pac-12 network. And then the game I'm looking forward to the most, Ohio versus San Diego State. It would not be Week 0 if we didn't get a MAC team in this, the best conference in all of football, going out to San Diego State and playing in an unshaded stadium where they might get a heat warning during the game. So why does Week 0 exist? Well, I wish there was a better answer than just money, because money ruins everything with college sports. So I'm going to pretend for a second that the reason Week 0 exists is for the sickos, for people watching this video. You know, these matchups might not be the prettiest, they might not be the most intriguing, but it's football. And the number one thing that we have been dying for these past 230 days is we just want to see a game. We don't really care who it's about or who's playing in it. We will watch anything. And I think that's what makes these Week 0 games so much fun, is that I feel like it would take away from the beauty of it if we saw big time matchups matchups. If we saw a lot more power schools playing against each other, the games that we want to stand out on this week 0 are the misfits, are the games that nobody would watch. Like New Mexico State and UMass being on ESPN, it's so poetic. Words don't do it justice. I'm glad that we live in an era where we can see something like this. So that's why week 0 is so important to me. A lot of people like to hate on these games and say that if you are not a fan of one of these schools and you are watching or attending one of these games, you have a serious problem. And maybe we all have serious problems. College football is a sport that we go a very long time without, so any football will do when we get it back. The summers are long, and we want this great sport to return, so no matter what action we get in week 0, we, as college football fans, certainly love it. Even if it is a battle between a MAC school and a Mountain West school, or an SEC school that really shouldn't be in their beat-up stadium. Week 0 is for the hardcores. Week 0 is for the diehards. And if you weren't there for week 0, you shouldn't be there for the national championship game. I would like to wish everybody a great college football season, and hopefully you learned a little something about why week 0 exists. So that's gonna do it for this video. Bring on all of the college football. Peace.